They raised me to be the stable one, the fixer, the backup plan. But when I finally said no, they stole something I can never forgive. Graduation day was supposed to feel like a fresh start, a day where all the hard work finally paid off. Barbara and I had both finished college, and our parents threw this big family dinner to celebrate. I sat there expecting the usual, maybe a heartfelt speech, maybe a corny toast about how proud they were. You know, the kind of thing parents do. But then my dad's face lit up, and my mom leaned in with this excited sparkle in her eye. They turned to Barbara and said, "We got you a house." A house. Not just any house, but a brand new one, fully paid off, worth around $120,000. My sister gasped, covered her mouth like she was shocked, but I knew that act all too well. She always knew. She always got the big surprises. The room erupted in applause, cousins cheering, relatives patting her on the back like she'd just won the lottery. My heart was racing, because surely they had something for me too. Maybe not a house, but something that actually showed I mattered. My mom turned to me with that drawn-out smile and said, "And for you, Tom, a gym membership." I blinked. For a second, I thought maybe she was joking. But no, the smiles didn't crack. They were dead serious. The silence around me lasted all of half a second before Barbara burst out laughing. Then my dad joined in. Then my cousins. Soon the whole table was shaking with laughter, like my humiliation was the best entertainment of the night. Something inside me snapped. I shoved my chair back and stood up. "Are you kidding me?" I shouted over their laughter. That only made them laugh harder. Barbara wiped at a fake tear and smirked, "Don't be so dramatic, Tom." I turned to my parents, my chest tight. "You gave her a house, and me, what? A hint that I should lose weight?" My mom sighed, shaking her head like I was embarrassing her. "It's for your health, Tom. You should be grateful." And Barbara, of course, leaned back in her chair with that smug grin. "Yes, Tom. Maybe if you actually use it, you'll earn yourself a house someday." That was it. I looked around the room. My uncle, the only one not laughing, gave me a small shake of his head like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. I grabbed my coat, turned to my parents, and said, "Keep your gym membership." Then I looked Barbara dead in the eye. "Enjoy your house while it lasts." And I walked out. That night, I made up my mind, I wasn't living under their roof anymore. I had enough saved to get my own apartment. It wouldn't be big, but it would be mine. A month went by. I'd moved out, cut ties, and was starting to breathe again. Meanwhile, Barbara spent her days throwing massive parties at her new house, calling me just to rub it in. "How's that little apartment of yours? Must be so cute and tiny," she'd sneer. Then, one night, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Barbara first. Then my mom. Then my dad. I finally picked up, and my mother's voice was frantic. Barbara had lost the house. At first, I thought it was a burglary or maybe some freak accident. But no. She'd walked into a casino, convinced she could double her money, and gambled everything away. She didn't just lose her savings, she signed over the house as collateral for a bet and lost. Just like that. Gone. I almost laughed, not because I wanted her to suffer, but because it was so absurd. My father's voice came next, stern but desperate. "We need your help. She has nowhere to go. Can you cover her rent until we figure this out?" I hung up. The next day, Barbara showed up at my apartment. She wasn't laughing anymore. Her makeup was smudged, her perfect hair a mess. She stood in the hallway and whispered, "I have nowhere else to go." I stared at her and said, "You've got a gym membership. Use it." But she didn't stop. She kept showing up, knocking on my door, calling my phone. My parents piled on too. "She's your sister," they insisted. "Family takes care of family." And I asked them the one question they couldn't answer, where was that energy when you gave her a house and handed me a gym card? Things spiraled. My dad started painting me as selfish to our relatives. My mom cried, begging me to stop making Barbara suffer. But my uncle, the only person in that room who didn't laugh at me, finally stepped in. He told them all to back off, told Barbara to live with the choices she made. And he promised if they didn't leave me alone, the whole extended family would hear the truth. That's when things really started to unravel. Barbara found a tiny apartment, worked 2 jobs just to keep it. Then she started calling me again, pretending to be nice, asking if we could meet for lunch. I brushed her off. And after weeks of quiet, I thought maybe, just maybe, it was finally over. Until one night, I walked up to my building and saw her sitting on the stoop. Her hair was greasy, her expensive clothes wrinkled like she'd slept in them. She looked up at me with hollow eyes and said, "I have nowhere to go." I sighed. Not my problem. But she followed me up the stairs. "Just for a few nights, Tom. Please." I shook her off, unlocked my door, and told her to go to her friends. That's when she whispered, "They don't return my calls." And that's when I realized, Barbara had never had friends. She had a fan club. People who came for the parties, the booze, the house. Now that all of it was gone, so were they. But that still wasn't my problem. I shut the door. Or at least, I thought it wasn't my problem, until I discovered what Barbara had really been doing behind my back. Months passed, and for the first time in years, my life felt quiet. No more frantic calls from my parents, no more guilt-tripping voicemails, no more Barbara knocking on my door like some twisted boomerang I couldn't get rid of. She was working 2 jobs just to afford her shoebox apartment, and my parents had finally stopped trying to dump her problems on me. Or so I thought. One night, I came home after a long shift. The street was unusually still, the kind of silence that makes your footsteps sound too loud. As I got closer to my building, I spotted her, Barbara, sitting on the steps like she belonged there. Her hair was greasy, dark circles under her eyes, scrolling through her phone like she just happened to be passing time. but I knew better. She was waiting for me. I sighed. What do you want, Barbara? She jumped to her feet, brushing herself off like that could erase the mess she'd become. I just need to talk. I didn't answer. Just unlocked my door, stepped inside. Of course, she followed. Look, I know I messed up, she said, pacing across my living room like a caged animal. I was stupid, I get it. But I can't do this anymore, Tom. I can't keep working 2 jobs. I can't live in that tiny apartment. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. So what? What's your plan? You want me to pay for something bigger? She hesitated, chewing her lip. No. I don't know. I think I should move back home. I laughed. Not just a chuckle, but a full-on, bitter laugh. Great. Go tell Mom and Dad. I'm sure they'll welcome their golden child back with open arms. Her expression hardened. She folded her arms. I did. They said no. That shut me up for a second. I raised an eyebrow. Wait, what? She slumped onto my couch, rubbing her temples. They told me they don't have the space. That they don't want me bringing my bad choices into their home. Mom literally said, you had a house, and you lost it, so figure it out. I just stared. The same people who called me selfish? The same people who begged me to bail you out? Barbara nodded miserably. Yeah. As soon as they realized I wasn't worth saving anymore, they dropped me. For a moment, just a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then she looked up at me with those pleading eyes. I was hoping maybe I could stay here. Just for a while. Until I get back on my feet. No, I didn't even hesitate. Her jaw clenched. Come on, Tom. I wouldn't be here if I had other options. You had options, I snapped. You had a house, Barbara. A brand new house. You could have lived comfortably for years. But instead you laughed in my face, rubbed it in, then gambled it all away like a fool. And now that Mom and Dad won't save you, suddenly I exist again? Her face twisted with frustration. You don't have to be such a jerk about it. Yes, I do. I stepped closer. Because let's be honest, you would never do this for me. If the roles were reversed, you'd be laughing your head off. Her lips pressed together. She didn't deny it. Couldn't. After a long silence, she finally stood up, her face red with anger. Fine. I'll figure something else out. She stormed toward the door, but not before throwing one last dagger over her shoulder. But don't act like you're better than me. You think just because you've got this crappy little apartment you're on top of the world? Newsflash, Tom, Mom and Dad don't care about you either. They only put up with you because you're not a burden. She slammed the door so hard the walls shook. I thought that was the end of it. But the very next day, my phone rang. My mother's voice, sharp and demanding. Tom, what did you say to your sister? She called us crying. I laughed. She showed up here expecting me to fix her life. I told her no. My mom sighed like I was the problem. Tom, she's your sister. You need to be there for her. Oh, that's rich, I said. You weren't there for her either. So why exactly should I be? This isn't about us, she snapped. It's about family. I cut her off. Oh, now it's about family? Where was that energy when you handed her a house and gave me a gym card? She tried to argue, but I hung up. The real chaos began a few days later. Barbara, apparently deciding I wasn't going to save her, went crawling back to our parents anyway. She showed up at their house unannounced and demanded to move in. When they refused, she exploded. She screamed at them, called them hypocrites, accused them of coddling her for years only to abandon her when she actually needed help. And then came the shocker, she told them to their faces they were terrible parents. My mom lost it. She screamed back, shouting that Barbara was ungrateful, that she'd ruined everything they had ever given her, embarrassed the family. My dad, usually the calm one, finally snapped. He told her maybe it was time she actually learned how to stand on her own 2 feet. Barbara didn't take it well. She grabbed a decorative vase and hurled it at the wall. The crash echoed through the house. That was the last straw. My dad grabbed her arm, dragged her to the door, and shouted that if she ever pulled something like that again, she'd never be welcome back. Barbara stormed out, but somehow, my parents still managed to blame me. If you had just let her stay with you, my mom hissed over the phone later, this wouldn't have happened. I laughed right in her ear. So now she's my problem again? What happened to work it out yourself? You're my parents, you should do what I tell you. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. They had spent their whole lives pampering Barbara, shielding her from every consequence. And now, when it all blew up, they had no idea what to do. That night, my uncle called me. His voice was firm. Tom, you need to set real limits. They'll never stop unless you do. I told him I already had. Good, he said. Because if they keep this up, I'll get involved myself. I don't care if it ruins the family's reputation. I don't know what he said to them afterward, but the call stopped. Barbara stopped showing up. For the first time in forever, my life was quiet again. Then, about a week later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I hope you're happy. You got what you wanted. Barbara. I stared at it for a moment, then locked my phone. Because the truth was, yeah, I was happy. Finally, there was peace. But peace never lasts in my family. And I should have known better than to believe it would. It started with one of those texts from my dad. Just a casual, hey, call me when you get a chance. I didn't even bother. Nothing good ever came after those words. A few hours later, my mom tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Then Barbara's name lit up my screen. For a second, I almost picked up, just to hear what ridiculous demand she'd cooked up this time. But I didn't. The next morning, another message from my dad, we need to talk about something important. Call us. Against every shred of common sense, I finally called back. My mom answered immediately, her voice honey sweet, like she wasn't about to ask me for something. "Tom, it's been so long. How are you?" I didn't even fake a smile. "What do you want?" She sighed, like I was being difficult. "It's about Barbara." Of course it was. "She's struggling with rent," Mom said carefully. "She's really trying, but she can barely make ends." "No," I cut in. "You don't even know what I was going to say," she protested. "I do. You were about to ask me to cover her rent. And the answer's no." Her voice tightened. "Tom, she's your sister. She just needs a little help until she's back on her feet." "Like the house you gave her?" I snapped. "The one she gambled away at a casino?" Silence. Then my dad finally spoke, his voice heavy. "She made a mistake. She's learning. We just need you to do a little. We'll all pitch in." I laughed out loud. "Oh really? How much are you two pitching in?" The line went dead quiet. My mom finally muttered, "Well, we help in other ways." I barked a laugh. "So, nothing. You want me to pay her rent while you what? Give her pep talks?" Dad's voice sharpened. "Don't be disrespectful." "Oh, but it's not disrespectful to dump your favorite child's problems on me? Where was that generosity when I needed help?" Mom exhaled like she was the victim. "Tom, this isn't about the past. You have a good job, you have stability. Barbara doesn't." "That's not my problem," I shot back. And then Barbara's voice cut through the line. I didn't even know she was on the call. "Jesus, Tom. Will you ever stop being bitter?" I laughed in disbelief. "Oh, I'm sorry. Am I supposed to forget the years you mocked me? Am I supposed to forget the night you rubbed that house in my face? I made a bad choice, okay," she snapped. "But you have a good life. You can afford to help me." "Just because I can," I said coldly, "doesn't mean I will." "You're so selfish," she hissed. "Am I?" I said. "Where was that energy when you were laughing about my cute little apartment?" Silence. Then she tried another angle. "Fine. Whatever. If you won't help with rent, at least lend me some money. I'll pay you back." I laughed so hard it echoed. "No, you won't. You can't even pay your own rent." "You're unbelievable," she screamed. "You'd rather see me struggle than help your own sister." "Yep," I said without hesitation. That's when Dad snapped. "Tom, enough. We raised you better than this." My blood boiled. "No, you didn't. You raised me to be the backup plan. And guess what? I quit." And I hung up. For the next few days, the calls kept coming, my mom, my dad, Barbara. I ignored them all. Until my uncle called. "They say you're refusing to help Barbara," he said. "That you're being cruel." I sighed. "And what do you think?" He chuckled darkly. "I think they're panicking because their golden child has finally run out of luck. And I think you're right to tell them no." That was all I needed to hear. The next day, a final text came from Barbara. "You're going to regret this." I blocked her number. Thought it was over. But a week later, something landed in my mailbox that made my stomach drop. At first, I ignored the strange envelopes. Junk mail, I thought. But eventually I opened one. It was from a bank I didn't recognize. A loan statement. In my name. I hadn't taken out a loan. I scanned the details, and there it was, my parents' home address. I drove straight there, not even bothering to call. My mom opened the door with that fake nervous smile. I shoved the letter at her. "Explain." She glanced at my dad. My dad's jaw tightened. "We were going to tell you," Mom said softly. "When?" I barked. "After collections came for me?" Dad sighed, as if I was the one making this hard. "It's just a loan, Tom. We needed a little help." "With what?" I demanded. "Covering Barbara's mess?" And then Barbara herself stepped out from the kitchen, arms crossed. "You're overreacting." I almost laughed. "You stole my identity, and I'm overreacting?" Mom grabbed my arm. "We raised you. Don't you think you owe us something?" That hit me like a slap. "Owe them?" Dad crossed his arms, his voice cold. "You're acting selfish. We knew you'd never help willingly." I pulled out my phone. "You have 48 hours to fix this, or I call the cops." They panicked. 2 days later, the loan was magically paid off. I didn't ask how. What I did do was lock down my credit, freeze every account, block every one of their numbers, and finally, cut them off for good. It's been over a year since that storm finally broke. And you know what? I've never breathed easier. My credit is clean. My job is steady. My apartment, small as it is, feels like a sanctuary. For the first time in my life, I wake up without that knot in my stomach, without waiting for the next call, the next crisis, the next guilt trip. Barbara? She's still sinking. Last I heard, the debt's piled so high she can barely see daylight. And my parents, the same people who crowned her their golden child, have finally realized she's nothing but a weight dragging them under. But do they blame themselves? Do they admit they raised her to believe she could burn down the world and someone else would clean up the ashes? Of course not. They just complain. And now they've started calling me again. Not to ask for money, at least not directly. No, now it's all about family. They want me back, the reliable son, the stable one, the backup plan who always picked up the pieces. But I don't answer. I don't pick up. Because I know the truth. They never wanted me. Not really. They wanted what I could give them. My time. My money. My peace. And I'll tell you this much, they're never getting any of it from me again.